We are taught to solve for a zero-sum game, and let's define that. That's an all or nothing strategy. That's I gotta beat that other guy. It's a competitive nature, but not a good competitive nature. It's a competitive nature of I will win, but I'll cheat, lie, and steal as necessary to win. Because there are only so many hours in the day, so much money in existence, so many minerals, so much love, so much energy. I only have so much time, and therefore I do whatever I have to do to get ahead. And that is a taught fallacy. It is absolutely untrue.
So here's the big question. How do everyday people like us who didn't grow up wealthy and were not taught how to be wealthy in school, how are we supposed to learn to think, invest, and grow wealth like the top 1% without compromising our ethics and our values? My name is Jeremy Whaley. That was my big question. This podcast will give you the answers. You're listening to Think Rich Radio. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Think Rich Radio. I'm your host, Jeremy Whaley, with my illustrious co-host, Mr. Nelson Bran. How are you today, Nelson?
Incredible, my friend. How are you?
I am doing great. I want to pick up on a conversation we started in our previous episode. We were talking about how we were indoctrinated in the United States about, well, I guess around the world, but we were indoctrinated to work hard, and the harder you work, the more money you're going to make, the more success you're going to have. And I don't know if that formula holds true in 2026. Let's talk about that.
Let's. May I begin, or would you like to start, good sir?
Go ahead, start.
So we're taught that our life force, our life energy, the more we use it, and we trade it for hours in the day in return for paper notes. The more life energy we give, the more hours we dedicate to our particular craft, the more dollar bills we will earn. And that couldn't be further from the truth. Because as I said in the previous video, money is a currency. It's intended to flow. And when we decide to capture it, it dissipates through inflation. It evaporates like standing water evaporates eventually as well. That's on the saving capacity of it. On the earning, I cannot earn the ebb and flow of a currency. I cannot. What I can do is position myself personally beneath a particular flow so that I'm able to get the benefits of that flow. And that's very contradictory to work harder, work longer, go back to what you said last time, go to school, get good grades, get the job, get the benefits, max the 401k. That whole paradigm of attempting to do that with a currency is simply untrue. It doesn't hold true anymore. So we're taught to spend every last dollar, we're taught to earn it on the way there, and we're taught to save it. And all those things are contradictory to what the wealthy do, the elites do. Last time you brought up Forbes, I think it was list of billionaires. I look at the list of billionaires, and time and again, 20% of that list of billionaires is constantly made up of the Jewish community. How and why? What about the rest of the people? When the Jewish community make up a very small percentage of the whole population, how is it they're always able to get into the top 20 spots of the billionaires? What are they doing differently than the rest of us? What are they learning in the synagogues that we're not learning? What are the elites teaching their children or their offspring to be able to not just give transgenerational wealth over and over again from generation to generation and growing it as it goes along? But furthermore, what are they not teaching them? What lies are they not, what deceptions are they not giving them about money, about what is currency, what's a security, what's a collectible? What is money? And so we need to start from the very blades of grass on the very bottom to define money for what it is. And once we know what that is, we're better able to do something with it. How's that, Jeremy?
Well, you dumped a whole lot there. So, yeah, I mean, I'll just kind of work backwards. It is true. I mean, statistically speaking, you have a very small ethnic group that has a disproportionately large percentage of the wealth. But it's also not true to say that all Jewish people are that way. So I think we probably need to get a Jewish person on the show and let's interview them. I don't know. But going back to what we started with is the whole concept of if you work hard, you're going to get the rewards you want. And that doesn't always hold true today. You're not saying, I know you're not saying we don't work. You're not saying we don't be diligent. I mean, there's plenty of lazy people that don't have anything to show for it. And there's plenty of people who work harder than anybody I've ever seen, and they don't have anything to show for it. So work is not the primary component of the equation. It's a component. I mean, you're not lazy, but you're also not doing the tedious level of labor that many would assume needs to happen in order to exchange money for your time or for your work. And I think that's the key right there is we were indoctrinated, not just in the school system, but just through society and through culture, that we trade our time for money. And when we do XYZ, we get compensated in proportion for that. Jim Rohn used to say, we don't get paid for what we do. We don't get paid for who we are. We get paid for the value we bring. And I think for me, that changed my thinking. I started asking the question, how can I bring more value? And I realized that, the same number of hours that I could work in one place, maybe driving a bus, not that there's anything wrong with it, but, there's a lot of people, a lot of skilled labor that could drive a bus. If I can find a way to provide value in a different capacity, maybe I could scale how much my effort would return to me in terms of cash flow. And for me, that was a driving philosophy of how I built a lot of my entrepreneurship. Is I kept asking the question, how much value can I offer? Let's start there for a minute. How's that land with you?
It's perfect. It's perfect because right now my definition of work has changed because now I'm learning. Every single evening I'm learning. I'm reading, I'm writing, I'm note-taking. And why? Because I understand keenly that during the daytime, what I can provide and what I know and what I've learned in my experience and whatever successes I'm having in whatever projects I'm in is completely based on what I'm doing at night in the dark when I'm alone, which is growing and learning so that ultimately I'm able to provide value and substance to everyone and anyone for free all the time. But again, it goes back to something you mentioned before previously, which was how our exterior world is a mirror. These are my words, not yours, is a mirror of what's in here and what's in here. And so this is after the fact. We don't practice in our society understanding that this material world is a result of what we've been doing for the last 3 to 6 months, more or less. And if we're not happy with the results that we have in our external environment, then we need to reposition what we're thinking, where we're spending our time, what we're reading, what's our influence, because this parallels exactly what's in here and what's in here. So if this is dissatisfactory, then we need to do some self-development, some internal work. And I think some of the older philosophers and older books have always said, don't attempt to master the world out here. Master your mind and you'll get further. And so that goes back to, because that's completely contradictory to exchanging your life energy for dollar bills with time as the metric to measure those by. It's a fallacy. It's not possible because money isn't real. Money, we don't even know what value a dollar has at this point, just based on its rate of inflation. So how can we trust any of those variables with our life energy? On the other hand, the better we are, the better we grow, the more we become, the more we can give. And the more we get back in return, because this world is reciprocal.
Yeah.
What you put in, you get back, period.
Well, I don't know if that's a true statement. The last part you just said, we have always heard it said, you reap what you sow, what you put in, you get back. But I know many people who've put in, 18, 20-hour days. I know people, there used to be a guy that worked at the gym, and the gym was I would go late at night, and that was his third job of the day. and he would always sleep at the front desk, and I felt so sorry for him. That was his third job of the day. He was putting in the time, but he wasn't getting financially rewarded for the time he was putting in. So I think that is the paradigm right there. It's like, what are you putting in terms of, it has to do with which seed you're sowing. Let's go with that route for a minute. If you plant meaningless seed, you can pour seed everywhere and you just end up with a bunch of weeds. Or if you plant really high quality seed, it might only be one plant, but it's a very high quality plant. And so I think a lot of it is for people to take their thoughts captive and their actions captive. So many people just spend hours doing nothing but watching television or entertainment or scrolling social media. And it's not a good planting of the seed. And then they feel a lot of times, you and I've talked about this, where a lot of people that work at home, they feel like they're busy, but they're not doing anything productive. And they're not planting good seed. So I think that's really what you were trying to say. We're a result of what we put in, but we also have to filter what we put in and make sure that we're planting seeds that are going to grow into productivity.
Let me add to what I said. So just to give it a little more grounding. If I don't believe it, it won't happen.
It's true.
If I don't behave it, I cannot attract it. So if I come to you and I say to you, Jeremy, here is what I think and here is why. Here's my life experience. Here's how I can contribute. Here's how I can be of value. Here's how I can prove useful to you.
Bingo.
Then guess what? The world opens up and suddenly what it is that I want, my deepest desires, because I'm under the impression that this universe is ready and hungry to give me what I want, but I must believe it to be true. Even if I work 80 hours a week on 3 different jobs, if I don't believe that I'm worth a particular salary, I will always stay at a particular number. So the one thing we don't accept going with that is that nothing happens to us here without our permission first.
Okay, fantastic. So let me button up some of that, because I think even I lost track of your thinking. You were saying, when you said we get what we put in, you're specifically thinking the thought process, the mental side of it, not the labor side of it.
Absolutely. The labor is irrelevant to the mindset, right?
Yes. Absolutely. 100%. And, you talk about we have to believe it. Napoleon Hill used to say, if you can conceive it and believe it, then you can achieve it. And that is the formula right there. The first thing we have to do is we have to have eyes to see it. We have to imagine something from nothing. If you can imagine this thing, you can conceive it. Most people have no vision. I don't know why, but our society has stamped out vision out of our culture. And so people have a hard time. If I come along and I say, hey, look at what this investment idea can do for you. Look at what you could do with these stock options, or what you could do with this crypto idea over here, or this real estate opportunity over here. People say, oh, but that's too good. There's no way that's going to work for me. They can't even conceive it. And if a person can't first conceptualize the thing that they want, they're never going to achieve it. Then you have to pair that up with faith, with belief that it's going to happen. Hey, I hate to do this. It's really weird in the middle of an episode, but am I freezing?
No.
Okay. Because it looked like I was freezing on this end, and it ran really fast.
No, I didn't see it, buddy. If you're freezing,
it was like the Roadrunner.
I didn't see any freezing, buddy. So we all meet people. And look at some of the folks that I've met that are in a constant state of suffering. I can't help but notice that, again, the what's in the imagined unseen world, that is the preliminary, that's the necessary primer to this exterior world. So in order for there to be an impoverished condition out here, or one of constant failure, it must exist in the brain first. What does that mean? It means that a lot of times we don't believe we deserve more, and therefore we sabotage our own conditions. As a personal example, there are opportunities that have been in front of me the entire time, but it wasn't until I could finally see them and believed that I deserved them, that they became real to me. So it's a deserving condition. If I believe I deserve something, guess what? It amplifies in my life.
100%. And I just want to tap on something you just said. You were surrounded by opportunity. I'm surrounded by opportunity. Everybody is surrounded by opportunity. It is our own, whether it's our belief about our identity or our belief in the opportunities that they exist, it's our own short-sightedness that prevents us from finding opportunities. I've said it in the world of trading for years, there's more money-making trades every day than we could do in an entire lifetime. The problem is not the opportunity. The opportunities are there. There's more money-making opportunities surrounding us every day than any of us could do in an entire lifetime. It's our eyes to see that limits our success. I love what you said there. It's a great framework. And as we, kind of go back to where we started this episode, which was hard work alone is not enough. If hard work alone is not enough, and if mindset is kind of the key that unlocks a lot of that. So let's go to the other side of that. You have a hardworking individual. We have John from Idaho City. I made him up, but there's a John in Idaho City who works really hard. John in Idaho City, and he's been pounding out 16 hours a day, and he's not getting ahead. He's 41 years old. And he's listening to us, and he's saying, you know what? You guys are just wrong. I work my tail off, and I'm not getting ahead. And you come along and you say this obnoxious statement. If you only thought better, if you only had better self-identity, you would get there. Well, how does John translate that? What do we turn that into so that the average everyday person says, oh, this is the action I need to take? Because we still conceive action. I have to do something. What are the actions that we can take to start that transition?
That's a big question. If you don't mind, I'm going to take a moment here. I've been filling up journals since I was 17 years old. I have hundreds of journals now. So I'm writing my journey and my life. I don't know what my kids are going to say about it one day, but it's got Googles, it's got diddles, it's got ideas, it's got to-do lists, it's got big ideas that I had to really cut up into little chunks so that I can absorb them and become them. I'm going to get back to your question, but I've come to the conclusion that we're taught scarcity. We are taught that there's only so much time, there's only so many people, there's only so much love, there's only so much money, there are only so much homes. And so we come from this insecure, doubtful perspective. And one of the reasons I believe that to cheat, to steal, or to lie exists is because we've been conditioned to believe that there's only so much. There's only so much. There's only so much money. There's only so much oil. There's only so much minerals. There's only so much land. We're overpopulated. The scarcity perspective is chiseled within us so that we're doubtful and we're fearful, and we come from that. We act from that. So the first thing that has to happen, even if somebody's working 172 hours a week, it's not working because they're still coming from a perspective of scarcity. It'll never work. They'll never be able to net what they hope to net, because hours invested in trade for paper notes is not the definition of sovereignty, of wealth building, of freedom, of independence, of autonomy, of self-reliance. None of those adjectives have anything to do with putting in excess hours for paper notes. They don't equate. They don't follow. One doesn't follow the next. That's why there's people who work hardly anything at all, but they're so much more wide awake to opportunities. They can see them because they've gotten control of their mind, and they've gotten out all this psychological inculcation, conditioning, this hypnosis that we're under, that makes us a very good obeying slave or very good obeying pet, or however we are in this plantation. There's a set of rules for us and a set of rules for these other people, and you and I are interested in the set of rules of these other people who tend to skip around this place and have a level of liberty that the common man does not, because the common man continues to be under the guise that the harder I work, the more I'm going to get. It is untrue. And it's chiseled into us through school, through college, through our parents, and so forth. So
the first step, let me sum what you just said. The first thing, because it is an action, the first action is you have to change the way you think. The first action is to acknowledge and conceive that there is a different reality. The first action is to say, there are other people that live differently than me. What are they doing different than me? That's what you just said. Am I correct?
I did, and I'll just wrap it up in a single term. Zero-sum game. We are taught to solve for a zero-sum game, and let's define that. That's an all-or-nothing strategy. That's I gotta beat that other guy. It's a competitive nature, but not a good competitive nature. It's a competitive nature of, I will win, but I'll cheat, lie, and steal as necessary to win. Because there are only so many hours in the day, so much money in existence, so many minerals, so much love, so much energy. I only have so much time, and therefore I do whatever I have to do to get ahead. And that is a taught fallacy. It is absolutely untrue. It is, and I'm not saying people couldn't argue against me and say, hey, Nelson, right now, there are countries that are fighting for resources and energy and commodities and metals and so forth. It's perceived. It is absolutely perceived. It is not the condition at all. But we're told that. And so yes, to your point, it is a mindset.
Well, I want to tap into that and just look at two different mindsets. On one hand, I have people tell me if somebody's successful, they cheated and they lied to get their way there. On the other hand, I look at somebody like an Elon Musk, and I was just watching an interview with him yesterday. He talks in language of completely no boundaries. Now, people say, well, he's the richest man in the world. Of course he talks like that. No, he's the richest man in the world because he talks like that. And that's what people have to understand, is it's not that he had to cheat and lie his way to get there and hoard everything. And because he's hoarding everything, now he has total abundance. He has his wealth and he has his abundance because he started with a core philosophy that there are no boundaries. And if we could all move the needle and say, well, what if I removed some boundaries? What if maybe I don't have no boundaries, but what if I just remove one? How much would that open up just to get one wall removed of my boundaries that I've been living in?
So Elon Musk is an excellent example of a man who is boundless, right? And sometimes what does that mean? That the individual has gone back and done a self-diagnostics, run a self, a dissection, where they've gone ahead and turned in and literally written down, what do I believe to be true? And then go back and say, you know what, this was taught by an uncle, and this isn't true. This, I don't know why I believe that, but this doesn't carry me anyway. And you start looking at your values and you start removing what you know isn't true, and then you start adding new ones that you know are true. And maybe they came from our parents, they came from our culture, they came from our particular moment in time. But the moment we do that, we become boundless. Boundless meaning this. So I believe in God. The way that I step into my faith is after I know a particular subject, I'm all in. All in meaning I'll take a step in the dark without the necessary surety in my environment that it's going to work. But the way that I practice my faith is I don't see God. He's not here. There's people suffering. We could use more miracles, but nevertheless, my faith doesn't wane because it's not contingent on that. My faith is no matter what comes. I could have a great day. I could have a shitty day. My faith will not ever, ever stop. But the same goes to everything I'm doing. Once I gave up that philosophy of scarcity, once I realized, because I wanted to be free, but in order to be free out here, I needed to be free first up here. So my faith is indivisible from the way that I practice business and or relationships with people. And that is give, value, step in the dark, risk it all, and risk it all with no guarantees either. I'm not playing life for well, it needs to guarantee me this. This certainty needs to be in place. No, no, no. Just the opposite. I'm in this journey for the sake of adventure. I'm in this journey to live, laugh, grow, but also to cry, lose, be in pain, and fall. I'm completely cognizant of those things because I'm playing. I understand it's a classroom. I'm here to err, and sometimes I will err publicly. And the moment we get into a mindset of boundlessness, of endlessness, of abundance, guess what? This place has apples. I put a seed in the ground, and it's going to give me flowers, trees, fruits, vegetables. It's a magical place. So if I decide to see it from that perspective, guess what? Inevitability occurs. Opportunities abound. It falls on my lap all the time.
Yeah.
That's just me, but that's also a lot of people, right?
I'm thinking, I don't know why this came up because it's not related, but it is. How many times have we watched a football game? You're late in the game, your team's down by 2 touchdowns. They drive down to the 20-yard line. They're 1 foot, or maybe they're a yard short of a first down. And the coach says, kick a field goal. And we're all screaming at the TV. You're never going to win this way. You can't win 3 points at a time. That's what playing for safety is. And we all watch it with football. And we all scream and we pull our hair out. And, then occasionally there's a miracle and they manage to pull it off. But usually the coach that plays to not lose is the coach that loses. They're playing for safety. And I think that's what you just described. You're playing to win. And if you're playing to win, all certainty goes out. You're going to take risks. And there's going to be times where people say, why did you call that play? You went for the first down when you could have gotten a guaranteed 3 points. But the guaranteed 3 points weren't going to get me a win. So sometimes the wins and the losses look bigger than they have to because you're playing for the win. What do you think of that metaphor?
You said, what am I playing for? Is that what you said, Jeremy?
What do you think of that metaphor?
I think the metaphor is spot on, brother. I think the metaphor is spot on. And going back to your question of what would a 40-some-year-old, what's the first action they would take? So remember, we are taught, my mom and dad told me, and society told me, and every classroom teacher and professor told me, you got to get good grades to get a job. So the first thing that was in me is I need a job, right? And you and I have had conversations about, in this moment in time, there are people who are wildly successful who never took a step into any college. They never finished high school, but they started getting out there in the real world, experiencing life, growing, and now learning online as often as they could. And so they managed their time a little better. And in so doing, at a young age, they learn to manage people. And in a young age, they learn to manage themselves and take control over their mind. And so I believe that getting a job is a fallacy as well. I'm not saying that shouldn't be the starting point because we need some life experience. But I think that whole thing of we need to depend on a job and a salary and benefits and a third party for our well-being is something that's going to be renegotiated as we go along in this new paradigm that is slowly but surely evolving and showing itself. So the mindset goes first, and everything follows thereafter. But even beyond making a list of our own values and realizing what is true and what is not, make a list of what we're good at and make a list of what we love. And when those 3 categories can join as one, for the first time we can make a decision as to, now I know who I want to be when I grow up. And that could happen at the tender age of 50, by the way. So
everybody's going to have to learn to be at least somewhat entrepreneurial. And if I can take a minute, I want to kind of just specifically for the listeners, just put in your mindset. We're sitting here, it's 2026 when we are recording this. Go back 150 years ago, the industrial age. At that time, our society was very agrarian. They were agriculture. Most people were farmers. Industry was coming up, and people started leaving the farms for certainty that they found in the industry. That's where our education system came from. It came from industry saying we need workers. And the last 150 years has been shaped by this concept of industry, where we train workers to do specific jobs. But then what happened along the way is it no longer became just a means to an end. It became an identity. Who are you? What do you do, Nelson? I'm a builder. I'm a contractor. What are you, Jeremy? Well, I was a musician. That was my college degree, but I haven't done that in 20 years. And what are you at this point in your life? Well, I'm a little bit of everything now because I took a divergent road 20 years ago that most people don't take, but most people are caught in this identity. And as you fast forward now to where we are today, you've got all these robots that their identity became their job. And I think part of the mindset has to be, I'm no longer just a mechanic. I'm no longer just this. I'm no longer just that. For most people, they say, if I didn't go to school, I can't be this. I can't be a pilot if I didn't go to school. I can't be a marketer if I didn't go to school. I can't be good at business if I didn't go to business school. Well, that's not true. I mean, for the last 17 years, I've taught people how to trade stocks and options, and they're not stockbrokers, but they can do it. Anybody can learn how to do it. And that's the beauty of where we are today. That's what the internet made available. What it made available is for anybody to get access to anything. It leveled the playing field in a way that we've never had in human history. That's what cryptocurrency is doing today. What artificial intelligence and AI is doing is it's leveled the playing field in a way that you and I and anybody on the planet can be equal, limited only by our mindset. We can now, you and I were talking about this, we can now put a Mac Mini to work, an $800, maybe $1,000 little tiny box, install an agent software on it that taps into AI agents and build an entire workforce for $1,000 that will work 24/7 and doesn't talk back to you, and you don't have to pay workers' comp, and you don't have to worry about your employees and your agents having affairs with each other. We have an amazing, we're alive the most amazing time in history, but people are struggling with the transition. And that's why what I think we're doing is so important. I've been doing it with trading, with Trade Maestro for all these years. You're doing it now with Delta Chain Labs. So why don't you talk about that briefly as we wrap up? You and Davey and Brandon have launched Delta Chain Labs to help people make part of this transition.
We have, let me touch on some of the things you said, because that was so insightful. So now every one of us can become an expert. We have the internet, and we could literally learn and become as significant as our traders, as our financial planners, as our accountants, as our attorneys. We could learn all of that college education, master's, doctorate, JD, whatever it is, within a few short months. We could learn that if we so choose to. So putting everything in the hands of the expert.
Affordably, that's the thing.
Absolutely affordably. So the days of putting all of our lives in the hands of a few experts is gone. And again, what we learn, what I call it is what I learned by night is what I present by day. And so all of us have that chance to do that. We can all learn every night, right? Delta Chain Labs is in response to the layman, the average person, not being able to know how to put their money into an exchange like Coinbase, for example, to know the difference between a hot wallet and a cold wallet regarding cryptocurrencies, to know what the blockchain is. So we started with, we can't legally call it a university, so it's Delta Chain Labs Academy. But what it is through modules and quizzes, we bring people from the very basics all the way through what is Web3, what is a neobank, what's the importance of having a bank on your own phone, in your own hands, as opposed to having it in a third party. We want to teach the importance of peer-to-peer currencies, of having the money, like I said, in your own possession, having the currency in your own possession, which is something we're just not used to. Within that academy, we're going to have expert classes by people like you that'll come in and do even these videos. In fact, we're going to put on as part of the university, the academy. At $150 a year, we want to provide the general public something of massive value. We've already got over a year of classes on there. They're anywhere between 5 to 20 minute long videos, and they're short. And right now, it's all artificial intelligence created, but we're going to bring in a human element to all that as well. Beyond the classes, there's also various tools. There's trading labs. There's a tree for particular projects to be able to grow a particular lineage within a particular project if one so chooses. There's multiple tools that are in there that come with the whole academy and the entire Delta Chain Labs classes and program. Something we're super proud of. We're growing it by the day, and we invite everyone to be a part of it. Our goal is to grow a community of people that can communicate and grow collaboratively.
Beautifully. I love it. We're aligned in passion. I'm building other stuff. Of course, I have my Trade Maestro business, trademaestro.com. You guys can all check me out over there. We've got other stuff that we're working on, and we're working together. And I want to end on this idea. I think this might be the most powerful idea we could end this episode on. In the 20th century, competitors were the evil opposition. In the 21st century, my competitors turn into my collaborators. I don't see what Davey does is different than what I do. I mean, they are different, but he's not my enemy. He's my friend. You're my friend. We're collaborative. And what I want people that are listening to understand is you don't have to enter this cutthroat workforce to carve out your a little niche that you hold on to in your territory about. Today in 2026, it's all open. It's all abundant. There's more than enough for everybody. And, you know, this whole idea of the one industrial giant that's going to own everything, that's falling away. The Microsofts of the world are going to disappear very soon. I actually was reading an article yesterday about how Apple, they've crossed over. They are way past their prime. They're not going to be the superpower that they've been for the last however many decades. And we're going to see this more and more, especially as we get through this epoch that we're turning through. We'll talk about that stuff later. But, you know, as we look at the next 15, 20 years, large industry is going to collapse. It's going to be back to the individual sovereign. You guys at home that are listening to your cars, wherever you're watching this, you are the most important player now. It's about you. It's about your community, the people around you, and the people that you learn to collaborate with. Take out of your mind this idea of cutthroat competition. It's not relevant today. It's actually going to take you out of the game. What will put you in the game is working with people, collaborating, and working towards a unified front of we're all helping each other. That's what I love about you, Nelson. It's what I love about Davey and Brandon and all the people that I choose to work with. And that's the other thing. Guess what? We get to choose who we work with. I like the people I work with.
Bravo, brother. Well said. DeltaChainLabs.com is our organization, our academy. And yes, my friend, we're going to grow collaboratively. And let's see if we can grow this audience to a few thousand people. And let's see how we can learn to serve them and be of value to them every day. What do you think?
I think it's great. If you're listening and you like this episode or you like what you're hearing from Nelson and myself, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Check out Delta Chain Labs. Check out Trade Maestro. And I look forward to seeing everybody in the next episode.